Hello, and welcome to another edition of the webinar series Starstruck. I'm your host, Rubina Agarwal. I head the wealth management business for HSBC India. We are truly starstruck today. She is known for her vibrant personality and her burning passion to excel. She's made unusual choices in her work and clutter breaking roles. She's expanded her repertoire of being an actor and added an author and producer to it. She's won many awards, including the Filmfare, author and film producer. Acted in the movie Kissa, which has won the prestigious NetPAC Award for Best Asian Film. She's acted in over 45 feature films in different languages with many eminent directors. Let's welcome the talented and most versatile Tisca Chopra.
Hi, Rubina.
Hi, Tisca. Welcome.
Lovely to see you. How are you today?
Very well. Good to see you. And, our viewers, before I start my conversation with Tisca today, I want to remind all of you that we have a question tab just below the screen. Please keep the questions flowing in. And once we have a few from you, I shall ask Tisca on your behalf. We also have a chat box for all our viewers to show your love for Tisca and for HSBC. Tisca, thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And it's great to have you with us.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we really want to get to know you better. But, before that, something that's top of the mind, I think this pandemic has got the better of us, right? It has changed our normal life. I really want to know what's your take on this new normal? How are you keeping yourself busy during this quarantine? It would be great if you take us through a day in your life.
It's a very interesting time, Rubina. Initially I thought that, it's going to be difficult. And it was difficult because it wasn't easy to see what's happening in the country with the whole migrant labor crisis and all of that. And seeing so many people dying and worldwide. And then, we felt India's quite okay and we'll be okay and all that. And then, we had this big wave hit us and all of that. So there are two realities as I see it. There's the inner reality that we have inside our lives, and there's the reality that's happening around us. So I felt that there isn't much I can do by way of the external reality at this point. I tried to contribute to whatever I could in terms of, sending food and resources to people who were doing, people like, Rana Ayub and people like that who were contributing. But I realized that the only way one can really master, because there's really no like rule book of the pandemic, right? This is like my parents haven't seen a pandemic. We're perhaps the first generation after 100 years that's seeing a pandemic. So I realized that pretty early on that it's very important to have a schedule for yourself. So I would get up in the morning. I stopped obsessing with the numbers. So many people in New York, so many people in this place, so many people in that place. I started focusing on sort of keeping my immunity levels very high, because I felt that was something that was in my hands. And I did extensive research. I deep dived into, what is actually required. So, there were some very interesting things like if you blow on a hard balloon, then you can expand your lung capacity.
Wow, I should borrow some from my daughter.
That's exactly what I got that. And then a few other tips. So we started doing all of that, the whole family, and we would do yoga in the morning. Then get up, change, shower, and get to work like you would on a normal work day. Because otherwise, days were lurching into days. One day was flowing into the next day, flowing into the next day. And it just became one amorphous mass of time. It's like time had come untethered. So, it was a kind of a weird situation initially. And then I did a lot of online classes, which for me was something that I'd been wanting to do for a long time. So I started doing a writing class, screenwriting. I started doing a film directing class. So that's been fantastic. I've finished writing a film script. We finished shooting a short film in the pandemic. I'm editing another short film. So it's been busy.
Wow, that's a lot on your plate. But on the positive side, do you think this has led to some quality time with family as well? Like you said, you did yoga together and stuff. And I think you've been really upping your game in terms of building on the creative growth, right? It also changed your perspective to life.
I think it did, because, you keep hearing about things like know about death, know that you will die one day, but the one day is going might actually be the very next day or could be very soon, because, so it brought mortality up close. front and center for everyone's life, because people around us in buildings around us were falling sick, and each of us, I think, knows a few people who've passed on because of the pandemic, and that's been it's been a wake up call in many ways about how exactly you should lead your life. And I think somewhere we were all sort of blindly doing stuff, like doing it because you were doing it for such a long time, and just out of rote doing it. Staying at home actually made me realize that there isn't that much need to actually step out. You don't need 150, 200 pairs of shoes. I've existed probably in 2 sets of pajamas the whole pandemic.
Okay.
And as far as my family goes, yes, my daughter's 7 years old, and my husband is pilot with Air India. He's a captain. So we've been married a long time, but it's like we've been married only half that time, because he's only here half the month. The rest of the month he's away. There's been a lot of like conversation, late night chats, lots of chai and charcha and all of that. So that's very interesting. My
Good.
daughter we've got a routine where I tell her a story for about an hour every evening, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. She's just written her first book.
Wow. Talented daughter to a talented mother.
No, she's just trying to see what her parents are doing and tries to copy it. But she's finished her first book. Yes, so
So that's very inspiring. And I really like what you're saying that, truly live each day and, stop existing. And I think it's added a lot more meaning, to some of the things that, we took for granted. So that's definitely true. Thanks for being so candid and sharing so openly there. Moving on to more professional, stuff. So theater, movies, web series, how do you think it's different for an actor, and also has the industry really changed, with these circumstances?
so for as they say, theater is the actor's medium, because that is where an actor can truly shine. Film is a director's medium, because how he cuts the film and how he lays out whatever he's shot, it's the director's medium. And web and television are the writer's medium, where how well it's crafted, the story, and how it continues to be crafted is television. All three have, essentially the acting stays the acting. You don't really change your acting that much. You change your acting according to the shot. If the shot is close, then you internalize more, and if it's a wider shot, you do slightly wider actions and so on and so forth, but that's too technical. Has the industry changed? The industry, it's very hard to say at this point whether the industry is actually changed or is going to change. Certainly theaters are not going to be open very soon. That's a given, because I don't think anyone's going to risk going into a dark room where lots of people are going to be sitting close by. So it's not going to happen very soon, maybe a year, 8-9 months for sure. And post the vaccine as well, I think people are going to question whether the vaccine is going to be something that is going to have any side effects. People are going to be watchful. There's lots of things. However, what has happened, I think, is that the industry, instead of being in a hurry to create and churn out stuff, because it was at a kind of a crazy pace, is now, I think, I know a lot of writer friends who are deep diving into scripts and are really nuancing them and layering them. So I think the kind of content that will come out post this period is going to be quite a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, that's interesting, and actually, links up to the thought I was having that you've ventured into being an author as well. We know that you're the grandniece of the famous writer Khushwant Singh. Did he inspire you to become an author? And I know that you have an upcoming book for young girls. Really want to know more about it.
So Khushwant Singh is a second cousin of my mother's, and we met him several times, and he was an extremely candid person, as I think everyone knows that he was. And in my family, I think everyone's written books. My dad has written a few books. My mom has written a few books. My husband has 2-3 books out. My uncles, everyone's kind of like a writer or writing or something. So it's something that is very much a part of like the way I think. I was editor of my school magazine, then college magazine, and so on and so forth. So, it's something which is very much a part of my system and my way of thinking. However, when you talk about Khushwant Singh's specific influence on me, I love the fluidity of his style of writing. Impression stays with you so strongly that it's far more than anything else. So that's quite amazing.
Tisca, there's a lot of love, coming your way, and there are a lot of questions that are flowing in. I'll keep weaving them in our conversation, but at this point of time, I want to take up a very interesting question. This is from Subra Jyoti Pal from Pune.
Mhm.
Subra Jyoti says, "Tare Zameen Par on one hand, and the Hungry on the other. Such opposite roles. What inspires you to take up such diverse roles and play it to perfection?"
Hi, Subrajyoti. Thank you so much for your question. Tare Zameen Par came to me at a time when I had done a bunch of television and I really wanted to break from television into film. And it was the film. I loved the script so much so that when they gave us our reading copies at Amir Khan's office, they wanted the copies back so that they could register them. I just stole my copy and I still have that stolen copy. I didn't want to give them the copy back. I love the script so much.
Brilliant.
I think I look for a story. At the end of the day, an actor wants to, when somebody's narrating the story to me, I want to be able to see in my mind's eye what will finally come on screen. And am I being able to live that environment that is being narrated to me? Do I feel for it? That's how I choose my parts. That's how I try and involve myself. And The Hungry was fascinating to me because it's the story of this woman who's basically a wronged woman, and she will do anything in her power to avenge her child. And single-handedly, she has an affair with 3 men, and the way she manages to finally find revenge, but it's a very, very expensive revenge for her. It's cost her almost everything that she's held dearly in her life. Spoiler alert, so I don't want to say more. But do see The Hungry as well. Tare Zameen Par, of course, was widely seen. The Hungry, not so much, but I'm very happy that you saw it and enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. There's another one that I want to take up again from Pune. This is Prathit Majumdar, and his question is, "Hi Tisca, in your recent Instagram post, you have shared 10 images from 10 films that have influenced your taste in cinema, like Shawshank Redemption. Any one movie from your own films which has influenced you in real life?"
Prathit, thank you for your question. That's an extraordinary question. I haven't got that sort of a question so far, and that's lovely. Yes, of course. Every script that you read, every story that you, a little bit of you goes into the character, and a little bit of the character comes into you. There are several movies that have influenced me a lot from amongst the movies that I've done. Tare Zameen Par, of course, has, because I wasn't aware of inclusion in terms of education and all of those things. They were like sort of not in my wavelength. I wasn't thinking like that. So yeah, Tare Zameen Par definitely influenced the way I thought and think thereafter. But the film that came as a result of my influences was this short film that I did called Chutney, which is on YouTube, and you can see it there. Is when I was a child and I was sort of growing up, I was an only child for about 6 years, and then my brother came along, and I always felt a sort of inner loneliness because of being an only child. And I always stared out of my window a lot, even when we were in the car or even at home, and I would observe people in other cars, in buses, in everything. And I would see people and I would try and imagine their lives. And as time passed, I kept imagining this very ordinary woman who had no good looks. She didn't have a child to secure her position in society. She couldn't speak very well. And yet she hid a brain which was dynamite. So for me, don't judge a book by its cover was the idea which I tried to put into Chutney, which I wrote. And so it came out of what was my influences, and that was my way of putting that out.
Wow, that's fabulous. I'm sure we should all, catch on and see Chutney as well. And, I want to share Tisca Tare Zameen Par is like an all-time favorite for me also. And, every time I look at my daughter, some of those things come back to you. And I think your role in that was very, very powerful. The role we all play as mothers, every day is not an easy one. And, the semblance that you draw to Hungry, I think somewhere that mothers, like, talking very loudly in you. Thanks for sharing this. Now we come to my favorite section in our webinar format. Tisca, what we have here in this segment of Starstruck is what we call down the memory lane. We've actually gone behind you, stalked you, and found a few photographs of yours to take you down the memory lane and to relive those moments. And we would love to, hear your thoughts on them. So, can I request the team? Can we have the first one up, please?
Ah, nice.
What do you say to that? A complete travel junkie there.
Junkie, and how I am a travel junkie. I have to say there is no two ways to that. This is at safari at Panna National Park, which is
Wow.
which is amazing. They have this beautiful property there, which they invited us. So I went with my sister, my daughter, a couple of friends, and it was a life transforming experience. To get up at like 4:30 and drive through a jungle at early morning is like a spiritual experience like no other. When you see nature waking up, animals stretching, mist 2 feet away from the ground hanging all over the forest, birds waking up. It's something that I recommend everyone should do. Along with that, I recommend that everyone should lie down in the grass flat and look up at the sky from the top of a mountain. These are my recommendations for happiness. It's free and you have to do it. It's just like the best thing.
And how we want to do it at this time, right? I'd love to just exchange places there. And Tisca, you really make it come alive, right? I was almost imagining my trip to Corbett, and being in a similar situation. So yes, what you say is really true. Let's see the next picture, Tisca, and this one is my favorite. I want to know who's this gallant young man.
Young man is actually a guy playing Mozart. So in Vienna,
Not so young.
and they had these amazing people. They paint their face and everything to look like statues, and they take these poses. I mean, he was stunning, and to be wooed by Mozart, no less, is something I couldn't miss up on the opportunity to take a picture. But it was just brilliant. This day was clear, and Mr. Mozart was most pleased. And when a couple of people, Indian people there, recognized me, he was like, "I want to take a picture with you." And I was like, "No, I want."
I want. It's the reverse.
Quite a fun guy and a huge flirt, I have to say. Mozart,
Okay.
this Mozart was a
I
huge.
won't blame him. Okay, and if he would have seen the next pic that we have,
Oh
the
my God! Where do you guys find this?
we also have our sources.
Okay, so this is one of my first few photo shoots in Mumbai. This is with the brilliant and talented Farooq Chotia, who shot this.
Okay.
This was sometime in the late 90s. And he obviously makes everyone look just glowy and delightful. And that was the time of pearls and feathers and everybody, looking like they're just like this old world Hollywood kind of charm. Yeah, I remember this photo shoot. I couldn't believe this was me. I came out looking at him and saying, "Seriously?" And he was like,
You're being kind. The complete diva. Actually, even the next one is very interesting.
This one has a very interesting story behind it. In Udaipur, they'd asked me to come in there and do a shoot for them at the Lake Palace. It started raining, and the shoot had finished, and then I just sat there, and I didn't know the photographer was taking pictures. And this picture actually made it to the Taj calendar, which was a big deal in
It
those
is actually beautiful.
What happened post this was really interesting. So everybody just kind of left after like 2 or 3 days of shoot, but they couldn't book a ticket for me. So I actually ended up staying, and I was a young
Oh,
kid,
love that luxury.
18, 19 years old. And I was like, I'll stay back. I don't care. Taj is pampering me and I'm having a good time. And so I stayed on for like 5-6 days, and I enjoyed my stay at the Taj tremendously. And people were so hospitable. And for a 16, 17, maybe 18-year-old, maybe this was, they couldn't be more, it couldn't have gotten better.
No, that's fantastic. Actually, I was saving the last one, as the best one. This is my favorite from them all? This munchkin.
This is me after a mundan, and
Wow.
this kind of interesting. It's in Sanar. My parents were teaching in Sanar, and this is
Really?
back in Sanar. I think it must have been a couple of years old at most at this point. And as you can see, still quite fashion forward. Everything was matching. You can't tell in this black and white picture, but I think I've got a color version of this somewhere where my socks and my shoes. I used to give my mother a hard time even at a year and a half. She had to tell me that, okay, this is matching, this is matching, this is matching, this is matching. So then I would wear it. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
Wow. So she should have seen it coming, that Adiva that I'm bringing out here.
Yeah.
No, this is fabulous. And I just want to remind our audience at this point of time that, keep posting your questions for Tisca. Please remember to post them in the question stroke request box. That's really good. Tisca, I've got to know something else, which is very interesting, that you can actually put on a German accent amongst, some others. And we would love to get a small flavor of that.
So, I get it from my mother. I think she's joining us on this chat, but I have to sort of be able to share credit where it's due with her this time, because we would go to someone's house and my mother would sort of, the minute the car wheels turned one round, she would immediately mimic this one, mimic that one, mimic that one, and she would be brilliant at it. And so I think I got the knack from her to sort of be able to visualize voices and visualize sort of people and what their problems might be, etc. So I was doing this fashion show once, and they had these girls who were the dancers, and all these girls who were they do part-time, they work as models, and part-time they work as fashion models and dancers, background dancers for Bollywood songs. So and when they come to India, they're completely zapped with the kind of reality that hits them. It's quite a romantic idea of India that they have in their head, and when they come here, they find it oh my God, it's hot, it's very hot, and I carry water with me. And my boyfriend told me before I came here to not carry the water with me, but if I don't drink the water, my stomach got a stomach problem in my stomach. It was spinning, and I was telling them that I went to the doctor. There was such a big line of people, and they were all telling me, why are you carrying a water bottle? And I was like, if I don't drink water from the bottle, then I get this stomach bug, and I finish the bug, and then I get the bug again, and then I get the bug again. I have to go back to Germany, and I cannot take it, and it's so hot. It's so hot. I drink water and I go to pee. I drink water and I go to pee, and I drink water, but I have to drink from water. Whatever money I make in India is all going into drinking water. So that's just...
You're brilliant. I think it takes, so much to be so perceptive and observant to be able to, bring it back like this.
Yeah, because I saw them all carrying their little Bisleri bottles everywhere, and and it can be very, our water, they just drink water from the tap. For them, the idea of constantly having to carry water, and the famous Delhi belly and all of that are waterborne diseases. So our immunity system is rock solid, which is why we are doing so well in the pandemic. The people here are not affected because they're already eating, what is that thing you call the pani puri, the water balls. They're already having all. What will Corona do to you? You will already be strong. Your stomach is strong. My stomach not good. Drink water, go to pee. Drink water, go to pee. So
no, that's really hilarious. I think that was really brilliant. I just still can't get over it. Coming to okay, so let's get on to a little more serious question then. So you work with such talented co-stars, right? Tell us your most memorable experience there.
A bunch of very interesting, exciting talents I've worked with. The most exciting of them, of course, being Mr. Amir Khan, and I have this one memory of him which I just cannot get out of my head. We were promoting Tare Zameen Par, and I think we'd gone to some NTV or we'd gone somewhere to promote the film. And Amir, he was busy talking to the guy about, what are the questions and what are we going to be doing, and we were setting up for the interview. So somebody came and said, "Sir, chai piyenge?" So he was talking to this guy, this one guy, and he said, "Huh?" So that guy said, "Sir, aap chai piyenge?" So he said, "Huh." So the guy said, "Sir, chini kitni?" So he looked at the guy and he said, "Cup kitna bada hai?" And I thought that is spot on, because how much sugar depends on what is the size of the cup. And I have never heard anybody ask that question.
True.
People just give a random answer, do chammach, ek chammach, whatever. Nobody asks cup kitna bada hai, usi ke hisab se to batayenge chini kitni hai. But he was like that, that's Amir Khan for you. So, it's meticulous to the next level. And the other thing I saw Amir do, which was again a thing which I admire deeply about him, is that he was acting and directing Tare Zameen Par. So he was sitting in one corner and he used to observe the whole set, everyone, just quietly go to one corner and just observe everyone. And one day he was sitting there and one assistant came to him and said, "Sir, aap Odomos laga lijiye, yahan pe machhar bahut hai, because aaj aapko acting bhi karni hai." And machhars were the size of helicopters, chota helicopters. They would bite those maps on your skin, those big bites. And it would show on. So he said, "Haan, de." So that guy got the Odomos ka tube and Amir started putting it. If at that time World War III had broken out, at that moment, Amir Khan would have been applying Odomos and nothing else. He took the Odomos, he put it in his ear, he put it behind his ear, he put it in his shirt, he took off his socks, put it between his toes, pulled his pant up, and matlab Odomos lagani hai to aise lagani hai. I cannot get over these two about Amir.
Amir Khan, you do personify perfection, right? Difficult to improve it in any aspect. No, that was really so interesting. Tisca, you're so successful despite actually not coming from the filmy background, right? And we are hearing so much nowadays about how difficult
the famous insider-outsider question.
Yes, difficult for the first generation personalities. How difficult was it for you?
Honestly, I will try and be as candid as I can about this. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy because my personality was, I'm quite introverted. It's taken me a number of years to be able to have this kind of conversation and to be able to be open about myself. Otherwise, I'm actually not an extrovert. So for me, it was hard because the perception that people had of actresses at that point was more like they have to be these bubbly people. Like आपको बबली होना चाहिए और आप सेट पे किताब क्यों पढ़ती हैं, मतलब आप हमें दिखाना चाह रहे हैं कि आप बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हैं. I was like, नहीं, मैं जब खाली बैठी होती हूँ तो मैं किताब पढ़ती हूँ. So, the film industry, when I joined it, was a very different place, and it was a very not female friendly place at all. And that was hard for me because I come from a family of educationists, and my personality type was not ideally suited to being in the business at that time. I was far more academic and quiet and that sort of person. And here you were supposed to be chulbuli, bubbly, and I was not bubbly, chirpy, and I was none of those. And then as movies evolved, I found myself in the company of people that I enjoyed tremendously. Amir being one, Anup Singh, who directed Kissa, being another. I mean, so many people, the crew at Hungry, Rahasya, so many of the other films, 24, so much of the work that I did, Hostages recently, and so many films that I did were with people that I could totally relate to, and the kind of work I did was completely in sync with kind of way I thought acting should have been. So to answer your insider-outsider question, I think there are people who are born to a tribe, and for them it's easy to enter, but entering is only one part. You have to stay. Otherwise, every film producer or director, son or daughter, would be successful on an ongoing basis. I mean, it would be that they would be the only one succeeding. However, the biggest successes in the industry today continue to be Shah Rukh and Akshay and so many others. Amongst the newcomers, Ayushmann, Rajkumar Rao, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, Irfan. So many of these people have had no film background whatsoever. I think ultimately it is a test of your talent, but also of your perseverance and of what distance are you willing to go. And I haven't been that, quite introverted. So for me, that was the struggle. So I think your struggle is with your personality. The struggle is not with other people. Because if you do a good audition and you might not get the first film, maybe the producer's son gets that, you might not get the second, the third, the fourth, but eventually you'll get one. And when you shine, then no one can take that away from you.
I think that was very candid, and thanks for sharing that so openly.
My
Moving away to a fun question. I know that you have a lucky coin in your wallet.
I do, indeed. Indeed. I've had
Tell
it
us
for
about it.
20 years. I've had it for 20 years.
Wow.
I was shooting this Tamil film and it was freezing. We were shooting in Rohtang Pass. And this was in my, when I just started working in Bombay. And the cameraman was a wonderful old gentleman. And he saw me suffering because I was wearing a short dress and the hero was wearing this whole military coat, this woolen military coat.
Always happens.
And wearing this short dress, freezing. And I had to climb to the top of the mountain, but not climb straight. So the camera was placed at the bottom of the mountain and they didn't want the snow to be spoiled for the camera. So we had to walk around Rohtang Pass. And by the time I reached the top of the mountain, I was almost blue with cold. And then the shot was that I have to tumble down the mountain, the snow. And so by the time I came down, I was almost passing out. And the hairdresser had to rub alcohol into my body and, all kinds of things. And people were painting everywhere. There was a Tamilian crew. So the South Indians had been in Rohtang, but they were like 5-6 of them just passed out with the cold, oxygen deprivation and all of that. And eventually the cameraman, when I said, okay, after 15 minutes, I said, okay, I'm ready to do my next shot. He was so happy. He gave me a silver coin, which was a King George old coin. And I don't know why, but I just think it's my lucky coin. And I've never been out of money in my wallet since I put that coin in. And thank you, Ashokji, for that coin. If you're listening or if someone tells you, Ashok Kumar, his name is. So if you remember, you gave me that coin for what you said was dedication. I still have it and it's in my wallet still.
Wow, that's really precious, and may you keep it always. There's a lot of good questions that are coming in, Tisca, and I want to take them at this point.
Just please tell everyone not to ask me what is the meaning of my name. That's not allowed. After so many like 500 times, I'm not answering that question.
So Tisca, be good to me, otherwise I'll just do that. Okay. No, I'm not asking you that, don't worry. So this is a question from Anirban Mukherjee from Siliguri, all the way from there.
What is with the Bengali influx? We have he's Mukherjee, Anirban Mukherjee. All three have been Bengali.
That's right. Yes, so it seems Subrajyoti Pal to Prathit Majumdar to Anirban Mukherjee. And, he has a very interesting question. How did acting happen to you? When did you decide to pursue it as a profession? Inspire us the Tisca way.
My parents, when they were teaching in Sanar, they needed someone to play baby Lord Krishna. And they didn't have anybody the right age. So I was the only kid who was old enough or young enough to play baby Lord Krishna. So I got cast in that part. And it's been, since then, I knew that I wanted to act. And they made me walk across the stage and said, you stand in the middle, look at the audience for a minute, and then walk across. So I stood center stage, right in the light, and I refused to move from there. I just refused to move. I stood there.
I'm saying brilliant, so confident and, just basking, under that spotlight there. We have another question, and you'd be surprised yet again. And this is from Momita Dasma Patra from Pune. How do you keep yourself motivated in this lockdown situation? I'm a travel junkie and extrovert, but last 5 months, I've only visited my terrace. Now completely got demotivated. I think you did cover a lot in the beginning of the section, but, something for Momita especially.
Momita, hi. That is a lovely question. And I think that if you don't focus on just the 5 months or the 6 months, but look at it from the perspective that when you step back, firstly, this too shall pass, and many more than enough people have said that. But the fact that it passes is one part. But the fact when you look back and wonder how it passed and how did you pass it and what did you gain from it, once the rigmarole of life starts all over again and you're back to office or school or college or whatever routine it is that you have, you will never get this kind of downtime again. So the very things that you always wanted to do, whether it's to read or listen to music or practice your dance or pick up a musical instrument, I don't think you're ever going to get this kind of time again, ever. And I mean that. Where if you want to sleep, I mean, if you're a sleep junkie, you can sleep like 18 hours a day if you want. If you're an exercise junkie, you can exercise as much as you want, cooking, whatever pleases your heart. This is a time where no one is going to question what you're doing. And yet, it's a time where you might spend time with yourself in a way that it's very quiet. There isn't that much traffic. There isn't that much noise. I'm sure you can find a place where you can go for a quiet walk within your curfew hours and whatever the legislation of the place where you are, keeping the rules in mind. I think it's a time which is never going to come back. And it's like a holiday with yourself. And there's one thing to travel outside, which we all do, but rarely do you get a chance to travel inside. And if you travel inwards, you'll be able to find there's a universe outside and there's a universe inside. And the inner universe is fascinating as well. I hope that helps.
Such a beautiful thought, right? To look inwards, and I think truly some time to introspect, what we really want, and where we really want to be. This is a very interesting section again, Tisca. We have our very own version of a rapid fire.
Ooh.
So in the so in the first round, we ask you questions, and the second format is interesting. I'll come to it when we get there. So ready for your questions? Workout or diet?
Workout or diet? Okay. Workout.
Okay. What are you currently watching on OTT?
I just finished watching Dark on Netflix.
Very interesting. Okay, theater or movies?
Theater for the purity of performance because it's continuous, and film for the kind of reach it has, because in a theater you can only maximum have about 1,000 people, but with a film you can have crores.
Yeah, so that's a good thing.
Theater stories told in a cinema way.
Yeah, okay. That's a great combine. Actor or writer?
An actor who writes their own parts.
That's a good answer. Okay, so moving on to the next segment of rapid fire. So here you need to associate a movie with the following words. Romance?
Dr. Zhivago.
Drama?
Amrish Puri.
Movie.
Like Mogambo Khush Hua from Mr. India.
Okay. Comedy?
Jaane Bhi Do Yaro.
Classic. Tearjerker?
Tare Zameen Par.
Couldn't have been any different. Inspirational?
Bunch of them. Invictus. If you've seen Invictus, Clint Eastwood's Invictus. Love that. If you guys haven't seen Invictus, please see it. It's, I think, on Netflix or one of the OTT platforms. Amazing film.
Yeah. Okay. So which one is the most favorite movie in all these genres for you?
I like thrillers. I like dark, twisted, psychological thrillers.
Okay. At this point, thanks, Tisca, you did very well in your rapid fire, and I really liked the way you combined and got great combinations to work the best. In terms of what works for you. So great. I gave you great scoring there. At this point, we have another question from Pooja Mishra from Mumbai. So, who do you look up to as a role model? Who are the people or their work that inspires you?
Bunch of people. In terms of work, I think a couple of actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, Meryl Streep, also Sandra Bullock, because she's one of the first actors who decided to turn producer and find scripts and get them made for herself. So the spirit that she has for that. Now Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman are doing the same thing. I like that. You know, if you want to do it, you get behind it and get it made. That's amazing. In terms of life, I think the person who inspires me the most is my dad. I find him to be a remarkable man. He's more. We were just talking the other day, and he was my school principal, and I used to be scared of him, but he's a great friend of mine now. We have long chats almost 3-4 times a week, hour and a half, this, that, the other. I find him to be someone who's disciplined and determined, and yet kind. He's a very kind man, a very fair man, and his heart is in the right place. And I deeply respect his way of living and the way he has, he still exercises every single day. He's physically, knock on wood, very, very fit, and he's still working every single day of his life, and he's working to make other people's lives better. He's an educationist, and he's done that for 50 plus years, so 60 years now almost. So that's my dad, who I love deeply and admire deeply.
That's really inspiring, Tisca. Thanks for sharing that. We have one more question from Jalpesh Mehta from Mumbai again. Thanks, Tisca, for amazing insights. What is your outlook on the future cinema, thanks to digitization and also social distancing norms in coming times?
Jalpesh, that's a really good question, and if I could accurately answer that, I can tell you that I would be a billionaire if my answer was absolutely correct. However, I will share my two paise ka thought. I don't think cinemas are going to open anytime really soon. There will have to be an alternative way of looking at screens, in terms of, I think, maybe like at a distance from each other, all of that. However, if there is a vaccine that's found and it's very efficacious and it works really well, then I think with caution, people will start going back into theaters. What will happen is that a lot of people will now start preferring OTT, because 6 months or 8 months is a habit forming time. And then people form their routines, and then they will start looking forward to, watching with friends, because ultimately watching something is fun with a bunch of people. We like that whole popcorn and friends and that whole gathering. It's a community experience, it's a shared experience, because then watching the movie is one thing, but taking it apart, or arguing and discussing various points of view, is the second part, which is as much fun for us. Or hum log Indians to itne we like to get into each other and discuss all those things and about the movie, right? So I think that people will not be willing to give up the social part of the film experience. So as soon as there's an opportunity, I think theaters will open and people will want to go there. So I think the bigger ticket films with the so-called big stars will have, when the film is an extravaganza, when it demands to be seen on a big screen like an IMAX or a movie experience, when it's an experience movie, then people will want to release that at a theater. However, the smaller, nicer, niche kind of films will release on OTT, and I think that's sort of the kind of thing that might happen.
No, that's a great insight, Tisca. Thanks.
I hope it makes sense. I hope
completely. Very, very clear perspective there. Tisca, looking at how diverse your personal and professional journey has been. From Kasoli to Delhi, being theatre artist to film industry, TV and ad world, to a renowned writer, a doting, loving mother. I actually feel that there is, something common between HSBC India and you, and that's the belief to go beyond boundaries. In 2020, HSBC's new direction has been India Beyond Boundaries, which talks about breaking stereotypes of the body and the mind and taking that extra step in thought and action. I want you to tell us about a fact that you have been a part of stories which you believe need a telling. That belief of you going beyond boundaries and working with NGOs for the girl child is something we really would want to know from you.
Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate HSBC's philosophy of going beyond boundaries. That is, as a corporate, as a institution, the idea itself is remarkable to be able to go beyond boundaries, both mentally and physically. So I'll just segue into a slightly different direction, and I'll come back to answer your question about the NGO and the girls' situation. When I first came into Bollywood, when they read my first film script to me, they said they narrated the whole thing to me, and I said, "तो इसमें मेरे scenes कहाँ हैं? मेरी lines कहाँ हैं? सुनिधि चौहान गा रही है, मैं तो नहीं गा रही हूँ वो गाने." So they were like, "अरे आप क्या बात कर रही हैं? हीरोइन का तो गाना ही होता है ना ऐसा." So I think the idea that girls are good for glamour, I mean, they're great for glamour, and that's one thing. And I'm happy to do that. I did that in a movie called Dil To Bachcha Hai Ji and a couple of other films. But is that all? Is that the only definition of being feminine? What about your brain, your soul, your struggles, your searches? So I did this movie Chutney, as I mentioned, in 2016, and then 2017 we did another one called Churi, which was another short film, and I've just written another feature film and then another one, where we're trying to explore the idea of within the structure of the Indian film business. They keep saying that ye female oriented film hai. They never say they never tell a guy ye male oriented film hai, because that's the norm. Ye to hona hi chahiye. When 50% of people are women, then why would you assume that one thing is the norm? Your audience is women, right? And now more and more women are earning money, so they're buying their own tickets. Lack of female perspective or gaze in movies. So I'm trying to change that in my own way, and like HSBC, trying to go beyond boundaries. That is something that I'm trying to do.
Fabulous.
To try and change the narrative in my own very small way, whatever I'm capable of doing, and I'm going to push myself hard to do my damnness to do that. Now coming to answering your question about the Girl Child and NGO. Now when you talk about women writing or producing or directing, until they don't do that, who's going to make these stories? Who's going to put the female gaze out there? अगर आपको एक लड़की के नजरिए से या एक औरत के नजरिए से फिल्म देखनी है, तो वो फिल्म एक आदमी नहीं बना पाएगा, because he will have the male gaze, because he is a man. Therefore, quite simply and quite selfishly, I think it's very important that we educate girls as much as we can. So I work with a bunch of NGOs where we try and raise funds, where we raise the level of education that's provided to girls. And I particularly am very keen that basic education, basic healthcare and hygiene, and on top of that, if we can provide some kind of vocational training so that they become financially independent, to me, that is a crucial thing. Because otherwise, your life is constantly at the mercy of somebody else, because someone else is making the money and the rules will be made by them. So if you want to have some say in your life, I think you need to have finance behind you. You need to have education behind you, because that gives you power. And that's what I believe.
No, that was really awesome, Tisca, and very, very inspiring. And with that, folks, I think we're coming to the end of Starstruck series today. Thanks, Tisca. You've given, our weekend a great start with all those inspiring messages. And I think we all know what to do with a day a lot better. We had a great episode today and got to know you a lot more and, lot better.
You were wonderful and so insightful. And thank you for your lovely questions. And thank you for everyone who joined in. And thank you, HSBC. I hope you continue to break barriers and have such sessions where in this pandemic, I get a chance to talk to so many people who I wouldn't otherwise. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone who listened in. And I hope you had a bit of fun, because I had lots.
Yeah, surely did. And I really want to thank our audience as well for joining us today. Do tune in for the next edition of Starstruck, same time next Friday. We have yet another show lined up that will take us down the memory lane in remembering one of the greatest geniuses from the Indian film industry. Till then, stay at home and stay safe. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.